Mets fans. This is my third attempt trying to stream today, so we'll see how this goes. If I have more issues with this, if there's significant lagging, then I'll just opt to do a pre-recorded video if need be or something along those lines. So to everyone first chiming in live on a replay, please let me know, how is the current connection? Am I lagging? Am I freezing for a long period of time? Just please let me know in the live chat, as that would be greatly appreciated, as I want to make sure I can provide the best content for you guys possible without it being annoying on the receiving end for you guys. So I think the issue why I was having hiccups today was ultimately trying to troubleshoot in last minute stream on both YouTube and Twitter. Had some hiccups with that. I think we're doing better now though. So again, as soon as I see people in the live chat to let me know that, hey, Wardy, the audio and the visuals look okay, then I think we'll be good to go. But first and foremost, thank you all so much to everyone first chiming in live on a replay. It's your boy Wardy, your number one stop for all your Mets news, rumors, post-game shows, pre-game shows that will be debuting this year, and so much more. All types of news we have you covered here on WardyNYM as we share our initial reactions to. And today we're unfortunately breaking down the news headlined by, yes, Kodai Senga. Another year where a Mets ace heading into spring training is already down for what looks like at least a month or two. So we're going to get into everything that you need to know on Kodai Senga's injury diagnosis. What did David Stearns have to say about the injury and the potential timetable? Ultimately, why are the Mets currently not deciding to buy on the free agent market for a starter still, with Kodai Senga being down for a period of time? Is this a right or wrong move, and everything in between, along with, of course, who will be the next man up? Is it going to be Tyler McGill? Is it going to be someone else? That is what we'll find out as well. So play to break down in the live show, and again, I appreciate everyone first chiming in. Thank you guys all so much for that. Shout out to my great sponsor on the channel, as always, with our friends BetUS, your number one sports book for all your sports betting needs. Shout out to them as always. But it appears like the connection seems to be going well, so I think we're going to continue to roll. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but in my software, oh, there we go. Now it's finally showing the chat. It wasn't showing the chat for a minute. I don't know why. And we also have a poll going, so make sure you guys answer the poll as you're first chiming in live on a replay too. But first and foremost, what I want to see from everyone is your initial reactions and thoughts to the Kodai Senga news, right? And shout out, I see A. Lavelle, Juan, Joe, Surpass, D-Ron, everyone first chiming in right now. Thank you guys. I also apologize because I know that this was a fairly last-minute live stream. I didn't give you guys a whole lot of time in advance to know that it was going to be happening, so apologies on my front for that too. But definitely want to get my thoughts out here, because since we did the video yesterday discussing that, yes, the Mets have Kodai Senga dealing with arm fatigue, that is a likely injury, just a matter of what is it going to be, and we find out that it is in fact a shoulder injury, which I'm not overly happy about. I got to be honest with you. On one hand, I'm happy that this isn't a UCL issue, because this was Kodai Senga's biggest concerns coming into the States, was his wear and tear on his UCL. That's why the Mets have clauses in their contract with him that dictate if he misses a decent period of time because of, say, Tommy John surgery, doesn't pitch to these amount of innings, then they don't have, then his opt-out isn't available after the 2025 season, and the Mets have an option for said contract too for 2028, depending on his health status. So the Mets knew that there were a level of health concerns with Kodai Senga when they first signed him. However, the injury here with the shoulder is not something that Kodai Senga has been dealing with all throughout his career. He emphasized today that he's dealt with the nagging a little bit at times and knows that he can't perform at his absolute best until everything's healed up, and that's why he, of course, addressed Carlos Mendoza and ultimately the Mets doctors to get imaging done and make sure to have him rest up. Ultimately, what is best for the team is Kodai Senga being as healthy as possible for as much as possible for the regular season. I see my man Pat here, in which will be live likely tonight around 8 p.m. Eastern, barring any changes, for the latest Bridging the Gap podcast. Myself and Patrick Hennessy will be breaking down everything that you guys need to know on the Mets and Yankees front this spring training. Plenty to deep dive and share our opinions about, and it is tough. It is tough. I mean, you're a hypocrite, Pat. We'll call a spade a spade. You literally texted me right before I started the stream saying, LOL Senga. I said F you, and then you're just like, all right. But again, I appreciate everyone chiming in, and really, let's get into now what is the diagnosis with Kodai Senga, right? And what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to just run the clip from David Stearns today discussing the diagnosis. Fair warning, the volume for the clip might be a decent amount lower than how you guys hear me. So if that's the case, just make sure you raise the volume. The David Stearns clip is like 1 minute and 10 seconds long. So just fair warning for anyone that is wondering why is the audio so low. Just make sure you turn it up for the next 10 minutes. Not 10 minutes, 1 minute or so. And here we go. Let's see what David has to say.
So Senga has a moderate right posterior capsule strain. So that's in the back of his right shoulder. He was having trouble recovering from his side sessions. The way he expressed it was really shoulder fatigue. And when it happened a second time, we decided to get an MRI yesterday afternoon. Doctor read the MRI this morning, examined Kodai, and we have this moderate strain in the back of his right shoulder. What this means right now, we're going to shut him down until these symptoms subside and strength returns to his normal levels. Once that happens, we can begin to ramp him up and then go through his normal spring training progression. We don't expect him to be ready for opening day. So at this point, we would expect him to begin the season on the IL. How long exactly, I can't tell you right now. We'll get more information on sort of next step treatment options and length of shutdown, and I'm happy to share that with you guys when we have it. But for now, we don't have it.
All right, guys, you heard from the Mets president of baseball operations himself there, David Stearns. Continue to let me know your reactions in the live show and for people down on replay, along with answering the poll here. And if you think it's the right or wrong move that the Mets appear to be staying in-house to address the rotation after the downfall now of Kodai Senga here with his injury. And something that stood out to me is one from David Stearns' comments today when speaking to the media. He didn't seem overly concerned. This seems like an injury, obviously, where it's not going to be needed for a surgical reason. Again, knocking on wood, because this is the same Mets team with different front offices, but still the same Mets organization that has rolled out year after year after year, telling us one thing about an injury just to find out that it's to a higher magnitude or that there was a setback or it's whatever. It's never exactly whatever it appears to be, because that is unfortunately our luck as Mets fans and the curse within this organization, it appears, throughout its entirety of an existence. But going back to Kodai Senga here and David Stearns' comments, what stands out again is that one, hopefully this isn't a long-term injury. You look at the injury in particular, what exactly is it? Again, it is a mild strain of the posterior capsule in his right shoulder. Now, capsule injuries can be very tough. Brandon Woodruff, for example, is a guy that's dealt with a lot of capsule injuries. He's dealt with a lot of issues with his shoulder, which is why we're seeing a guy with him like him on the shelf for as long as he is right now, as he re-signed with the Milwaukee Brewers on that 2-year contract. But Kodai Senga is someone who thankfully hasn't dealt with shoulder injuries really much at all throughout his career, but he did make note, if I didn't mention it already earlier in the show, that this is something that he has dealt with throughout his career in the sense of just getting, those little pinches, the slight discomfort. And he said, in order for me to pitch at my best capability, I had to inform everyone it's best for me to be shut down right now, get some rest, heal up, because that's really all you can do. And especially in the case of this being a mild strain, this really is something where you sit back, you relax, you wait for that thing to heal. The downside of this is this could easily be, in my opinion, 2 months without Kodai Senga, right? It could be more than that. It could be a little bit less than that. It's all going to depend on how he projects. But there's one thing that we know about this Mets organization right now, especially with the type of year that they're having in 2024 projection-wise. They're not going to rush Kodai Senga overly by any stretch, especially to begin the year. So while it definitely stings to see our ace down, once again, another year, surprise, surprise, we're the most important pitcher in our rotation is out for potentially, a month, 2 month, a decent period of time at least, heading into the regular season where, even if he does just miss April and he comes back at some point in May or some point in June, if you're just out for a month or so, okay. But again, you have to realize he needs to get his rehab games. He needs to get his legs under him again. And as amazing as Kodai Senga is, we know that guys can, again, get off to rusty starts, especially after dealing with injury. Let's take Justin Verlander. Great example. JV, of course, dealt with his ailment, was out for over a month, a month and a half to start last season. When he returned, was very rusty. I mean, JV was giving up the long ball big time in his first month and a half of the season, and then was able to ground himself more. Not that they're the same exact situations, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that, unfortunately, this is a commonality with us Mets fans that we all know very well. So now, ultimately, what is next for this Mets team now that Kodai Senga is down with injury? And let me just say one more thing on the Senga front here. I'm gutted by this. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm beyond disgusted to see that the Mets have another star player, unfortunately, in the rotation, when their rotation is, you can rightfully argue, their biggest Achilles heel by far, heading into the regular season with a huge question mark. The one guy that you thought was a certainty is now anything but. And just like that, you find yourself with Jose Quintana as your opening day starter for this Metropolitan team. Luis Severino, Sean Manaea are your 2 and 3s in whatever order you want. Maybe Adrian Hauser. The point is, these are guys that you want more so at the back end of your rotation. Now they're pretty much frontlining. And now, as David Stearns alluded to today, if the Mets do address this rotation, it's going to be internal currently. Basically, if the Mets were going to sign Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery prior to the Kodai Senga news, they're still not going to do so now, whether you want them to or not. And again, I'm a proponent. I don't mind the idea of a Jordan Montgomery on a short-term deal if that's at all possible. But with 110% tax, that short-term deal becomes over double. So instead of, say, spending however many AAV you might, it's going to be over double. So it could be, north of, we're looking at $70 million a year, for potentially someone like Jordan Montgomery, or, not far off from, because of that tax. Again, I would like the Mets to add. I have rightful concerns. While they have MLB depth, I have concerns with this rotation being hit hard so fast in the season that by the time Senga gets back, the Mets may find themselves in a hole that already is a decent thing to dig out of. There's a lot of question marks now with Senga being on the shelf, with this being, an ever-changing potential time period. This is a timetable where there is no utmost certainty as to when we know he's going to return right now. And when talking about certainty, that is certainly not something that the Mets have with their active rotation. Jose Quintana, Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, Adrian Hauser, Tyler McGill, that's your 1 through 5 right now. Your number 6 starter at the moment is one of Jose Buto, Joey Lucchesi, or Max Kranick, who's a diehard Mets fan that was claimed off waivers by the Mets this offseason, trying to ball out big. He has his first appearance with the Mets. He'll be taking the start for them Monday on a game that is not broadcasted by SNY, because the Mets are on the road, I believe, at the Washington Nationals facilities this spring. So you look at that depth there, and again, these are MLB caliber arms, but the concern is that your entire rotation consists of MLB caliber arms, some of which have plus stuff as long as they can either command or control a little bit, get that walk rate down, whatever it may be. But there's just such a gaping, huge question mark with this rotation now that is nothing short of frustrating. And Yoshima, thank you so much for the donation. He says, why us? What did we do to deserve this all this time? I don't know if the 86 Mets quite literally sold their entire soul to who or what and said, it's okay if we never win again. It's okay if we never have happiness as long as we have this. Obviously, I'm joking here. Point stands, though. This is a Mets team that we know far too well has went through hell and back when it comes to injuries. This is no different with this team organization. This is no different with this team, of course. Diaz will never get a chance to save games. I pray that isn't the case, Frank, obviously. Diaz is someone who I'm so excited about this season. But yeah, you want to see him be utilized. And he can't be utilized, obviously, if you're getting banged around too much in this rotation. So my question to everyone now is, would the Mets make it known that, yes, we're not going to be adding to this rotation at this point in time? This is ever-changing. I like to make clear, depending on, obviously, the health statuses of every other starter for the Mets heading into the season. Hopefully, God willing, everyone's healthy, 1. But 2, the production level is where things may change on addressing. Now, would I love the Mets to address this rotation via trade? Yes, I would. But the question is, for what and for how much? And that is something that I know David Stearns has been trying to find a fine line with. It appears all off season long. We all know that the Mets were active for a starting pitcher after acquiring Sean Manaea, right? And it appears that as of now, we're heading into the season with Sean Manaea being the last acquisition of starting pitching. It's like, okay, don't love it, but I can stomach this rotation heading into the year. And now without Kodai Senga, it's really hard to stomach, because you just know that the likelihood of this Mets team having the success that you want them to is just not going to be there unless they prove us otherwise, which I certainly hope they do. But in all seriousness, I'm very concerned here in the sense of how this may impact the rotation right now, because yes, we have guys in AAA that are destined to crack the bigs this year. Wouldn't shock me if they crack the bigs within the first couple months now, which again does bother me to a degree, because it's similar to last year in the sense of, okay, Denny Reyes is pitching against the Oakland A's within the first month or two of the season. I understand Mike Vassell and Christian Scott have such higher ceilings and potential than a Denny Reyes, but the point stands, I don't want the Mets to have to even consider about being reliant on a pitcher of that magnitude this early in the year. Thankfully, David Stearns did state today that the Mets are not, banking on Christian Scott, Mike Vassell to be cracking the rotation. Dominic Hamels of the world too, to crack the rotation heading into the year. And that's why having the MLB caliber depth and McGill, Lucchesi, Buto, and Max Kranick are very important. But it's still, you look at this as a whole and you're very underwhelmed. I know I am, at least. I'm sure many of you guys can agree to this too. And you look at the free agent market out there, it's like, okay, if you're not going to sign a Jordan Montgomery, you're not going to sign a Blake Snell. There's a couple guys still out there, obviously. Mike Clevenger is still out there, for example, but are the Mets going to really go after an arm like him? They may now. They might just do it now, considering the fact that they are down a key starter of Senga's magnitude. But here's the question, and I think this is why the Mets are going to roll internal. Again, whether you like it or not, this is what David openly said they're going to be doing for the time being until proven otherwise. It appears they're going down this route, obviously, for various reasons, but let's also not forget the year that we're having. This is a Mets year where they're hoping to make playoffs. They hope to be a playoff caliber team. However, this has never been a year about making sure that you are having World Series aspirations and, on paper, having the sexiest roster humanly possible. They don't have that. We know that. And it's a frustrating thing. And now you see David coming out here saying that we're going to stay internal. While I understand those viewpoints, I do. And I truly believe, and this goes in hand with what I was initially saying, I think this really goes in hand with not only the vision of the Mets year, but also knowing that they do want to give a leash to the Mike Vassels and the Christian Scotts at some point this season. Not right away, because they do not want to rush them up. You do not want to hurt these young talents' development, as these are starters that might just be the future of the Mets rotation, especially Christian Scott, who I spoke on recently with SNY's Joe DeMeo as we broke down the Mets' top 10 prospects over the past 2 weeks. Check it out, live stream format, in case you guys haven't already. We will have content coming out in the near future on Mets prospects that'll impact the club this year, and Christian Scott is definitely a guy that I'm excited to see. But still, you do not want to bank on these guys right from the jump. You do not want to hurt their development either. So I understand the thought process, even if I don't necessarily agree. Because personally, I think the Mets should still add to this rotation for the sake of being as competitive as possible. But David Stearns, I'd envision to a degree. Michael Lorenzen, someone brings up in the chat too. That's another short-term option. The question for David Stearns and the Mets here is it really worth it signing a Mike Clevenger or a Michael Lorenzen when you have Tyler McGill, Jose Buto, Joey Lucchesi as 3 MLB caliber arms? How much better is Clevenger or Lorenzen going to be for you statistically than those 3 options? Because if we really break things down in a nutshell, Tyler McGill's command has been raved up so far this spring. He's working on that spork ball. He's going to debut it. We're going to see more of it this Saturday, and we'll be breaking down in our first post-game show of the 2024 season, even though it's only spring. And then you have Joey Lucchesi, when he was called upon, was pretty productive for the Mets. Aside from carving up everyone and their mother in San Francisco, he had some pretty solid outings for the Mets last year, one called upon. Jose Buto, down the stretch, actually looked pretty good. Around a 3.6 ERA, a 3.9 ERA, and just under 50 innings last year. I mean, that was a surprise to many. His command, his breaking stuff looked really solid, and Buto's walk rate is the main thing that needs to be worked on. So, again, these are 3 MLB caliber pitchers, and I think that ultimately, whether you like this thought process or not, this is why the Mets and David Stearns are operating the way that they are. They're going with this belief saying, you know what? Okay, we're not going to add here. Why do 110% tax for a mid option in a year where we're not even going to be the best team, not even the second best team on paper in our division in the NL East? So for those reasons, I can understand that. And I do see the upside. I'm not going to lie. Out of the 3, I'm probably, as much as I get hyped up about my boy Big Drip every year, not just because, he's a great guy. I've had the privilege of meeting him, know his family well. Shout out to Julie and the entire McGill fam. Great members and supporters here on the channel. But I'm really, really excited about Jose Buto, actually. When evaluating those 3 options, Buto is the guy that I think really could surprise plenty of people this year. He's a guy I felt that way after seeing his conclusion of the 2024 season. And ultimately, this is an arm that was a non-factor at one point to now being a factor where he might eat a decent amount of innings as a 6-man or a 5th-man option for the Mets in this rotation. Now, my question, everyone, is, again, I understand, trust me, I understand the frustration when not adding another starter. 3 realistic options are Vince Velasquez. Ryu is back in the KBO, so that isn't happening. Vince Velasquez, no, I'm good. I'm sorry. Vince Velasquez, I'm good. I mean, let's not forget, it wasn't all that long ago the Philadelphia Phillies were playing Vince Velasquez in right field because of his cannon of an arm to drill out guys, because he struggled so much on the mound, but he's such an uber athlete. Similar to Michael Lorenzen, for example. Lorenzen, people don't remember this about Michael Lorenzen, but Michael Lorenzen, of course, can defend. He can swing the bat too. Like a very, 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 very Walmart, like a Dollar Tree version of Shohei Ohtani is what Michael Lorenzen was pre-Universal DH. But Johnny Cueto, the Mets, maybe they could do a minor league deal. That's something that wouldn't shock me, just for the sake of having more protection there. But out of the 3 pitchers that I just listed for you, and the only reason why I'm not emphasizing Max Kranick further is just because Max Kranick is the biggest wild card among Mets starter-S pitchers. He doesn't have a lot of workload on his arm. He has a really nice arsenal. It's pretty I actually like a lot of his pitches. Friend of the channel too. Don't be surprised if you see Max Kranick on the channel this spring. Very, very nice guy. And having said that, I think it's really going to come down to right now Jose Buttu, Tyler McGill, and Joey Lucchesi. So out of those 3 options, which of the 3 do you think is the best fit to round out this Mets rotation for the time being? Again, I know that no one and their mother wants the rotation to be rounded out in this way, where Jose Quintana is headlining the rotation, and one of McGill, Lucchesi, and Buttu is the final starter and the 5th man out of a potential 6th man. But out of those 3 starters, everyone watching live and on replay, which one do you think would be the best fit potentially for the Mets in that final 5 rotation spot? Let me know in the chat. People on replay, the same applies, and continue smashing that like and subscribe button if you just chimed in, or if you've been a recurring viewer. Thank you guys all so much, as you subscribing and liking is the easiest and best way to support the channel. We have consistent coverage on all things Mets all offseason long here on WardyNYM, so make sure to smash those buttons. Like I said, we got post-game shows already starting this weekend, which I'm so pumped up about. We got Mets pre-game shows. Yes, very excited for that. We'll be making more of an announcement as we get into spring about it, because it will not just be involving myself. You're going to be some faces on the channel that maybe you haven't seen before. Maybe you certainly have seen before. And, we're coming at 2024 like never before here on WardyNYM. Regardless of the status of the Mets this year, the grind will never stop. We're going to do our best to cover this team the best way we possibly can and know how. That's by being genuine and by being as relatable as possible as an average fan, which I'm certainly that. Nothing more, nothing less. And I love having these breakdowns with you guys, even in times of grief like this, because if there's one thing that us Mets fans can rally around, it's grief. We go through it together. We are a community, we are family, we are in unison, we are one when all hell breaks loose on the injury front, which is an every year basis with this club, unfortunately. You should come this series when the Dodgers visit. I'll be there for sure. BC, awesome, my man. Yeah, I got to get everything mapped out for what my schedule is going to be like with games I attend this year. Things are going to be very hectic and ever-changing. Also, fully intending on doing some actual, events in either the Citi Field parking lot or even in the Marina lot this year, as basically our own tailgates. A lot of fun stuff is going to be coming this year, which I'm excited for, along with just attending games. So yes, hopefully if I do attend that series, BC, I'll let everyone know ahead of time, obviously on the community tab and videos and on Twitter. And you, of course, can reach out and we can try to meet up at some point. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's see. I think someone made a mistake in game 1 and it cost us. McGill has the American Ghost Fork. One can only hope. Yes, seriously, Kodai Senga has helped build the new spork, if you will, that Tyler McGill has in his arsenal. Wouldn't it be so fitting if Tyler McGill can come and be a true every 5th day starter in this rotation? Give us around a 3.5 year right, baby. Give me a Tyler. I know it's in you. I know it's possible. Could this be the way? A soul for a soul. It's like this has become one of the best new pitchers in baseball. I've won, but at what cost? Kodai Senga's downfall because he's injured, right? It's like we can't have 2 of the good things at the same time. It has to be one or the other. And hopefully that good thing is, in fact, that spork ball. But as I'm seeing some of you guys are saying, Tyler McGill has the most big league experience. Yes, he does have plenty of big league experience. Let's not forget, though, Joey Lucchesi does have a decent amount of big league experience going back to his time as a San Diego Padres starter. Yeah, remember that, guys. Remember when the Mets acquired Joey Fuego a number of years ago? The first year in this Mets regime, I do believe, actually, the Mets acquired Joey Lucchesi in the regime of Zach Scott, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, though. I'll have to ask Zach Scott. I'll have to ask Zach that when I talk to him next, because he is another, again, a former GM that you shouldn't be shocked if you see on the channel at some point. A great guy. I've had nice conversations with him, and we'll see where that gets us. Let's see. Hey, Rory, did you get the 67 program I sent you? Adrian, how long ago did you send the program, my friend? I think that's a question. If you sent it fairly recent, I haven't been at my PO box in like I think a week or two. So I definitely haven't been in my PO box in a couple weeks. So I need to go there because I know that there's things waiting for me from a great supporter of mine and Dave Kaplitz. Shout out to you, Dave, as always, you absolute beauty, who I know has been watching the live show. Let me know, Adrian, how long ago did you send that? Because I'm not entirely sure. If it wasn't too long ago, then I haven't retrieved it yet because I have to go to my PO box. Regardless, though, thank you so much for sending me that. It really does mean a lot. To everyone that sends me stuff, thank you guys so much. I've had an absolute, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege shouting you guys all out and everything. I know that there's some more that I still need to do that I just haven't gotten the chance to do yet. But seriously, thank you. About 2 weeks ago, yep, I haven't been to it. So the rest is short, Adrian. Next time I go to my PO box, I will check that out and I will give you a nice shout out, of course, for next time I do a video or stream and I showcase the latest things that were sent my way through the PO box. So thank you for that. But Mets fans, there isn't really too much else that needs to be said on this run. It's doom and gloom in Mets fandom once again, in the sense that, yay, we're all excited. We're having this internal optimism heading into the season just to find out that our star ace is going to be on the shelf for a decent period of time. Now, final remarks I'll share in regards to this, everybody. Then my final takeaway with this is, as much as this stings, we've been prepared for this. We have been mentally prepared for this. And if this is going to happen in any year, man, oh man, am I happy that this is at least happening in a year where the Mets do not have the expectations the way that they did last year versus this year. If Kodai Senga was down when the Mets first signed him, and Verlander, and you saw the hiccups that Scherzer dealt with throughout the rotation until he was dealt, oh my God. I mean, it would hurt me so much more than I think it is right now. I mean, my expectations for the season are to hopefully just crack playoffs. You guys know that. We'll get into further analysis on the Mets for spring training kind of later tonight as well on our Bridging the Gap podcast, as I mentioned with Patrick Hennessy. If you guys like a fun, comedic, and at times very unhinged, which is what Patrick's known for, show breaking down all things in Mets and Yanks land, we'll talk about obviously spring training, the biggest storylines, or just previewing both teams. We'll probably talk about Blake Snell because there's been a lot on that rumor front and it looks like he could be a New York Yankee after all. We'll talk about that, ultimately why the Mets are staying in house, and is this the right move or wrong move, more so later tonight, and just everything else that's going on with these respective clubs as we now head into spring training games for the Mets begin this weekend, and baseball is officially starting today around 3 p.m. Eastern. The Dodgers and the Padres are kicking off spring. Very exciting stuff for all my baseball fans out there, but that is what I will leave you with. Thank you all so much, as always, for supporting me. Let's see, about 2 weeks ago later, I did meet Mariano Rivera in Queens. He was lost trying to get to the Queensboro Bridge. Get out. Shook his hand. They felt like sandpaper. I'm sure they did. That's very random. What about Jake Odorizzi, Julio Teheran, and Dallas Keuchel? There's no, those guys are, again, minor league signings that you keep in AAA. I think the Mets have so many better options than either of those three. Truly. And that includes some of their prospects. And I'll stand by that. But that's going to do it for the show, everybody. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Apologies for the hiccups. If, say, you tried to watch earlier and the stream got cut off and you weren't able to watch this live, because it took me around a half hour and 3 stream attempts to get this right. So I apologize for that. Usually that isn't the case. Just had some hiccups as I was trying to stream on multi-platforms. But the Wi-Fi connection said otherwise at the moment. So that's what I'll leave you with. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for consistent coverage on all things Mets all season long. We have a lot of things coming. More content tonight, more content tomorrow, I'm sure, and plenty throughout the spring and season. Thank you, guys.